But that's as opposed to trying to divert traffic. You know, sometimes people will say, can you just get some of these cars off my street? They're cutting through and whatever, and no doubt they are. But that's not our number one objective. We're okay keeping traffic where it is. We just want to slow down and drive through your neighborhood responsibly. Sometimes we'll talk about traffic calming in terms of ease. There are at least 3 of those. Education is a part of what we do. I'll show you some tools that we have related to education. Enforcement is one that people always ask. You know, why can't we have MNPD down there, park a cruiser and write a few tickets, and wouldn't that be helpful? And it would. But 2 things about that. One, it's helpful while they're there, but our memories fade pretty quickly, and the next day we're going probably just as fast as we ever were. And secondly, obviously, and we've been all reminded of recently, they've got a big job to do. So they're shorthanded, they're committed, they've got big priorities, and often traffic enforcement, as important as that is not as high on their priority list. So we focus on engineering. That's NDOT's role. Our role is to work within the right-of-way, manage that right-of-way, and we have some tools that we can use when the cops aren't there, and despite whatever anybody's education may be, we can put some things in the street. When you encounter them, you will slow down, and so that's the point of this program. This is some new information, but it's one of the guiding principles of the program, which is just to, you know, sometimes people say, well, what's the big deal about going fast? You know, it's, I think y'all know on Packard, and we've heard it a lot as we've been in this neighborhood about how undesirable the speeds are, but and sometimes it's helpful to have this reminder about pedestrian safety, other users of the roadway, and we know that as speeds comes down, if there is a, you know, extremely unfortunate event of there being a pedestrian collision or any collision, your chance of survival goes way up if speeds are slower. This Packard is signed at 25 miles an hour, and so you know, we're trying to just bring speeds down to that appropriate level. I mentioned it is a very in-demand program. This is just a snapshot kind of quantifying that. In that last application window, I don't know when y'all applied. Y'all have been in for a while.
We would go in, deny, go in, deny, go in, deny. And
Yeah.
I think Tucker's last edition, we finally got that. Woohoo!
Yeah.
It was like, I think they just got tired of hearing from
Well,
us.
there's been some changes, and we can talk about this. There's some very real changes about why Packard got approved this time and hasn't in the past. And
Channel TV spots
well, I don't, maybe, but it was a policy decision. Like I've been telling you, we really don't work on collectors.
Yeah.
Packard is kind of most of the streets we work on are local streets. That's an official classification of the planning department. Above that, you have collectors. They're a little busier. They're meant to get traffic, you know, where that needs to go. Above that, like Nolensville Road, is an arterial. That's the highest class. So for a long time, we didn't work on collectors. Very, very occasionally would we. This next time, a lot of collectors entered the program. There was a policy decision. Absolutely. They're very residential streets.
They used to be collectors, and I think that's the problem is the city.
You may be right.
They became the collectors.
Yeah, like Wallace is a good example. Yeah. Huntington Parkway, yeah.
Perfect example of that, yes.
Mm-hmm. Blackman,
Yeah.
Whispering Hills, all of those are, you know, they carry more traffic, and typically it had a higher speed limit, like 30 instead of 25 or 35 instead of 30, but anyway. Is it 35?
It's 35.
It's 25. I think it's 25.
Well, everybody.
There's our problem.
I think to say I've never seen that sign.
So Packard is one street. We had over 400 streets just like this, where people request and saying, please come do something about it. Speed is really an issue. And so I just say that to say you guys are not alone. And it really feels like since COVID, for a while it was very much a known nationwide trend that speeds had gone up. So I'm not sure that anything's back to normal, but, you know, we're still there. And we do, to put it in perspective, about 50 projects a year. That's what we're able to do at this point. So being one of those is pretty good. how Packard got in the program, there was an application, and along all those other 400 streets, the same way, there was an application on those. And so we go out and we start collecting data. We get two major pieces of data that we actually put tubes on the street and collect this. We collect speeds. Yeah, if you see the little rubber tubes, we're collecting data.
Put some strips near my house.
Yeah. So when we do that, we're collecting speed and we're collecting volume, how many cars are on the street. So that becomes 70% of our equation. The speed is 45. How much traffic is 25% of that. The other 30% is a combination of other types of users. So we know traffic is a big part of traffic calming. That's 70%. The other 30% has to do with pedestrians predominantly, because, you know, like I said, those two things, walking in my neighborhood and driving in my neighborhood, go hand in hand when we're talking about traffic calming. And so, because we know there are people that don't even feel comfortable walking around their neighborhood.
We have a pit park, we have a great dog park, but trying to walk because we don't have sidewalks. It's scary.
So that type of thing where you've got parks, libraries, schools, and so forth, in this case, maybe shopping opportunities, that falls into those trip destinations. That's the smallest part of that 30%. Are there things to walk to? Non-driver accommodations, the yellow piece of the pie there, has to do with the fact that you don't have any sidewalks. That boosts your score when you don't have sidewalks. And then lastly, there's 10% that give to, is there a documented case of an actual pedestrian crash? In this case, we have it. A lot of the streets that we're working on kind of surprised me. There's that many pedestrian car incidents that have been recorded. So anyway, that becomes part of that equation as well. You put all that in the scoring system, the worst offenders rise to the top, and congratulations, you are one of them. That's how we're in the system.
Number one.
Yeah, I think you may be number one when you put all of this. Okay. Yeah. So, and we put it out in order of the score, and I think maybe you weren't on speed. I looked, and I think you were about number 5 on speed. But when you start looking at all those other things together, you're 1 or 2. You're right at the top. Your speed is 40 miles an hour. It is 25 posted. The volume really boosts this one. You have a high volume compared to most of our traffic calming projects. That goes back to your status as a collector. That's part of that is just defined by that. There's just a lot of streets that come in and intersect Packard. It's a connection, and so you've got almost 5,000. 5,000 is really our cap. I don't think we did any at 5,000. We kind of put them in a different bucket, and they're going to do some different types of treatments. So you're right there. So that becomes a little bit somewhat important to us. Street width, pretty typical, about 11 foot lanes, no real shoulder. So we'll do some more field work more specifically than that, but that's kind of our desktop review. This one's a little bit hard to make out because of a concrete block wall mainly, I guess, but it's small. This is our project right here. The green line that curls around, that's Packard. We're going from Tusculum Road to Keeley at the 4-way stop. That's the limits of this project, that green line. This map, by the way, is available. It is an interactive map that's on the Traffic Calming webpage. I'll give you a link to that at the end of the presentation. But it can be helpful because green means you've been accepted into the program, and we're working on you the same way we are with Strasser and Fairlane. That's why they show up as green as well. But you can also see projects that have been completed. East Ridge, and I forget the other one over there that goes up to Haywood Lane. Those projects have speed cushions on them. You've got some others over here. So if you're interested and want to go in there and say, where else has this been installed, you can go to this map and see some other streets in your neighborhood. And then purple lines mean that they are in the system. They have been applied for. So if you're driving and you wonder, you don't have to put in another application. You can see what streets and the limits of those streets that have been applied for, which, yes, that means we're getting data on those as well. So that can be a helpful map there. So a little bit about, before I showed you the plan we've got put together to this point, I just kind of want to spell out the definitions when I show you and we say what is it, that we've got speed cushions. Just want to make sure everyone's on the same page there. So the bread and butter of this program is the speed cushion. It is a manufactured high-density recycled rubber apparatus that we purchase. We like that for a couple reasons. Number one, it's known. It's the same cushion we're using all over the county. We know how people drive it. We know how well it holds up. We know how long it takes us to get them. We know what they look like when they get here, all of those kind of things. So that gives us a real level of comfort, because very slight variations in how these are built can have a real impact on how a car performs over them. So we have found that if we buy a manufactured product, as opposed to, you'll find some neighborhoods, they form them out of asphalt, they form them out of concrete. It's okay, but you can't always be assured it's going to be exactly that same profile. This gives us a very consistent product. It's only about 3 inches tall. That surprises people sometimes. It's still effective. It doesn't have to be very tall to enact that change. We have some design tools that we can use. So if you look at the dimension here along the length of it, you can tell there's a middle piece in this one. That's a 10.5 foot long cushion. We can take that middle piece out, put the 2 ramps together and do a 7-foot cushion. We typically reserve those for more urban neighborhoods, you know, your East Nashville's and Germantown and Waverly, and places that, you know, we want to be really aggressive with slowing the speed down. Well, and you know, maybe it's got 400 cars a day on it as opposed to over 4,000. So we do have to keep that in mind. We have recently gone to a default really of a 10.5 foot cushion. It's more suited to a lot of Nashville's sort of suburban neighborhoods. I'd consider this to be more of a suburban neighborhood. You have, you know, larger setbacks off the streets. You got more frontage. It's not quite as dense as some of the other areas.
What is Sealy? Do you know? How's it long stretches?
I'd have to check. Yeah, I don't know. And that map doesn't define it that closely, but, and then we have a 14-foot option, you know, so if we go out into more rural areas, maybe in Southeast or Joelton and places where we have, also when we have really high volumes, we like to consider the 14. It still brings traffic down into that 25, 30 mile an hour range. So it just kind of depends on what we're looking for. It's a balance between, you know, comfort of the people who have to drive over this every day, and then obviously affecting a slower speed, you know, that we're comfortable with. So on this one, you know, we still haven't landed, but we're in that 10.5 or 14-foot cushion range.
There's a street that runs between Agency Pike and McMurray Drive. Brewer?
Huntington Parkway?
It's just past Tusculum School. If you're going toward McMurray.
Okay.
And it's that first street on the right there. They have speed bumps that are completely across the road.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's that Brewer. I think it's Whispering Hills or Brewer.
Whispering Hills, yeah. Yeah, so that's probably this next tool, which is a speed table. The only difference here is just what you said. You pointed out it goes completely across the road. We don't do these very often. NDOT has used these very sparingly, where we have some special considerations, I guess. But the reason why they don't use these nearly as much is because of the interaction with, and the reason there's a gap in those other ones is because of preference of some of our emergency responders. So when we have these cushions like this, a larger wheelbase vehicle, they can't just go over them unscathed, but they are a lesser impact. I don't know if you can tell, but there's kind of a break where they slope back down on the sides. And so your ambulances and fire trucks, people that we want to get them where they need to be, they can do a little bit closer to straddling those and continue. They still have to slow down some, but that's the main point, and that's the point. That's the big reason why we haven't used a lot of these.
Packard, you barely even have that much lineage on the right. There's no roadway.
Like no shoulder?
There's no shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
So if we do the smaller ones and they try to go around, they're going in your yard to get around them. That's happened.
It's happened.
Yeah.
You're right. It happened. So, yeah, a couple of things about that. Number one, you may notice a couple of configurations. We can do them 2 wide. We can do them 3 wide. In this case, you're 22 feet. Your situation would look pretty much like that. One in each lane would cover the width of the road. Now, we do pay attention if you've got, even if it's not shoulder, if it's flat yard, we know people will try to drive around these. And so sometimes if it's a little bit wider street, we can use a delineator like that. And we haven't had a lot of people taking those on. You can, they bounce back. They don't do any real permanent damage, but people don't want to hit them. The sign itself is yeah, that's probably the best tool, especially, you know, when we got grass or kind of an area, we haven't had a case where they're going around them if that sign is there.
I have a question. On East Ridge, the original traffic circle that was put in, which might be a little too large for that intersection, however, but at one time there were 2 stop signs on each of the side streets. East Ridge is the main street.
Okay.
All of a sudden they become yield signs.
I wasn't aware.
That's not real. That's not real helpful.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that.
Because now everybody is staying in motion.
Yeah, there are different philosophies on how a small circle like that should work. It's honestly not a real defined thing. Now, we know those bigger roundabouts like you have downtown and at Music Row, those are yield. People understand that. That's how those work. Neighborhood traffic circles, or some communities stop like the way they were. I know they were stop on the side street. Some have gone to more of a yield, so I didn't realize they had changed, but yeah, it's good to know.
I'm not giving up the fight for stop signs on Packard because there really needs to be a 3-way at Fairlane and Packard and maybe even one at East Ridge. Just to slow them if they're coming down Keeley, it's, you know.
They fly over Keeley.
Yes,
Something has got to stop.
to even
70 miles an hour Chargers and Mustangs.
Yeah.
But the fight we have with the stop signs is there's not from what I've heard and all the no's, is there's not enough accidents at that location. I'm like, but you got to see the big picture because they're flying from way up there, you know. So I don't
I think what you're going to see is, I think what you're going to see, this will have an effect.
Oh, absolutely.
But to what effect will be, we'll have to wait and see, but this
I'm
will have
happy
an
with
effect.
this first step.
And then I think getting everybody involved in that area will help as well. But this is something that's way overdue.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's what we tell people a lot is, you know, this will probably, we hope when we see in other neighborhoods, cure 80% of the problem. And so when people say, well, can you do this? And we got this other issue and this other issue, we say, if we do this, it takes care of a lot of the blind curves or sight distance issues coming out of your driveway and things like that. So this is a big chunk of.
Going to our mailbox.
Yeah, I know. I don't doubt it. Yeah.
I've had a mailbox. Cedar Hill is a street that runs into Packard, and I'm bad at distance. But anyway, supercharger, he starts his speed down at Cedar Hill. I am at my mailbox. In the length of time it took me to just try to step away from the mailbox, he was on me, and the wind from his vehicle caused me to stumble.
Yeah.
He was going that fast, and I thought, right there, if I'd been a child, I'd been dead.
Mm-hmm.
I had the sense to step off in the ditch.
Yeah.
Thanks to him blowing me off in the ditch.
Yeah.
But
I know. It's scary.
it's just insane.
So we do have a little bit of data about these. You know, it's still coming in, but we're seeing about a 9% on average reduction in this. So we know it. We know it's helping. One of the other tools that we've got is this one, the feedback signs. You may have seen some of these. A lot of times we use these where we can't do a cushion for one reason or another, or if we're really interested in kind of monitoring, because we can record data from these. But this is one of those tools that's really just information, just putting it back to the driver, making sure that they're aware, hey, there is a speed limit and you're way over it. You know, that's what it's for. And so.
Would that be something that will be implemented in that?
On Packard? Yeah, I'm going to show you. Okay. I do actually have one here.
And a license plate reader.
Yeah. That's the transportation department has not gotten into that. Narrowing is something we can do a lot of times with edge lines. Just give that perception that the road is narrower than it really is. We know if you can see, and you know, like in your neighborhood, a little bit larger setbacks, and if everything is clear and wide open, there's a tendency to fly down that street right there because they don't perceive any.
That's what they see when they turn.
Yeah.
Right on Packard.
Yeah.
That's exactly what people pass. Oh my
God.
God.
We hear that a lot.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh,
They race on that.
this is beyond that. Yeah. I can see from the front row.
They race on that.
Oh, and doing the donuts down there at Creekside, Packard one night.
Yeah. Well, that kind of behavior with donuts and, you know, whatever they're doing, when we talk about not wanting to move traffic off the street, that's one of the things that will move off the street. You know, they can't race with those things there. And so not that we want to push that, but we have seen that those types of behaviors go somewhere else. It can't happen here when you've got that.
There's such a long stretch from Keeley to Packard. How far apart will the cushions be?
Okay, I'll get there in a second. I'm going to show you. Traffic circles, you may have seen some of those. You do have them in East Ridge. So anyway, the department uses these also very sparingly. We've kind of gotten away from a lot of these school buses, and kind of big vehicles like that are a real kind of a complicating factor for those. But
Yeah.
They are mountable except for the sign. You can, yeah.
I don't understand why, but we seem to have quite a few 18-wheelers and very large.
Is that right?
We've gotten more.
Yeah.
We've gotten a lot more.
I think if there's problems on the I-24 or down on Nolensville Road,
Yeah.
they're using Packard as acceptable, although I thought they weren't allowed in the
They're not, but the signs are, that's one of the things that's coming. The signs are not there yet, but they will, because they're going to be, when the stoplight is at East Ridge and Haywood, you know, certainly we don't want them in there. You know, we don't want them in there. But you have to have it put up. So NDOT will do. They're in the process of doing a lot of new signs.
I'm pretty
So
sure
that'll be one of them.
18-wheeler took out that sign in the middle of the traffic circle.
Mm. One other thing we use really more in urban areas is bulb outs, where we take a street that has a lot of pavement at the intersection, and, you know, people may be whipping around that corner real fast. We try to narrow that some. We don't physically take the pavement out generally, but we, you know, put some hatching in there and some of those delineators. And in chicanes or something, I think of about 2 streets in all of Davidson County to have these, but kind of replicates that on-street parking. You know, when you get in really tight urban areas and you can't go fast and it's sort of a yield street, kind of replicates that. But again, we don't use those very often. Things like your stop sign, we do get that request a lot. Things like crosswalks and other kind of spot improvements. We always like to plug Hub Nashville. So if you're not familiar with that, hub.nashville.gov is a great place to go and you know, make those service requests, and not just for NDOT. They cover a lot of different departments. Sometimes people will ask for sidewalks. This is not a sidewalk program, unfortunately. We'd love to build sidewalks, but they're very expensive. I know. Tell Miss Dearman, there's her information. Yeah. So we just show this to show there are other departments, there are other avenues to get help for these types of things. Really, all of those start with Hub Nashville. So, you know, don't be shy about making those requests. That's what that's for. And then if you do it through Hub Nashville, you kind of have a record of that request and the progress on it. This is the plan for the street as it exists now. I need to get this thing off of here if that's worse. Doesn't look like I can. No, there it goes. There you go. All right, so we're looking again at the entire stretch from Tusculum up and around to Keeley. I forget the link to that, but what we do, the way we design these, getting to your question about spacing, is we'll look at the entire length of that, and then we divide that by something like 400 to 600 feet. So that's the average spacing that we're looking for when we put these in. We have found that that's neither onerous for people that have to drive these, and it typically doesn't, it's not so bad it pushes traffic off the street. At the same time, it's close enough together that people don't navigate this speed cushion and fly to the next one and fly to the next one. They tend to keep a pretty consistent, 20, 25 mile an hour speed. So let me tell you about the gap in the R. A couple of things that keep us from keeping that ideal spacing that we would just love to have are hills, and that's a hill.
That is a big hill.
Yeah. Yeah, and so we're not going to put something out there that if someone does hit it, just it'll take flight. Yeah.
We have flip cars without the cushion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is the place where we would recommend on the downhill side putting a feedback sign. We will move these as close as we can to the bottom and the top of the hill. I don't think it's such a distance. I don't think so. But we do the best we can on something like that. That's helpful to know, and unfortunately, it's right there. I mean, yeah. It is a straight. The other things we look at is curves. I don't think this curve is so sharp. I think we can still get these in despite those curves. And then the last thing is driveways. In this neighborhood, you all have enough frontage. I don't think we're going to have conflicts with driveways. We'll be able to work these in pretty easily. So we'll take a look at this. That's good feedback that you feel like that's really a sensitive area right there, and we'll put our thinking caps on and see if there's something else we can do about that. What do you think about these others? We're down here at Strasser and Fairlane.
I like that spacing right there.
Yeah.
Okay.
You like that?
Oh,
You guys like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as Linda said, that's a big concern, because that is where they come.
That's helpful. So coming down.
If you can even get
Either way.
one more in there, maybe is there a different type of cushion of some kind that you could fit for that particular area? Maybe not the same height or width as down here, as up there.
Or Jeff, let me ask you, is it possible to do some kind of paint the turn in the road there?
Oh, were those crazy little things they did on Blackman, and then they have the poles in the middle? Like it's visually kind of.
The zigzags are definitely on Blackman. The poles, I can't picture those, but
I just wonder if that might be an option for that.
yeah, we can ask.
Okay.
I'm not in the position to say we can do that or not, but certainly something we can take back and say that here's another thought. I don't know what the effectiveness of those has been shown to be on Blackman. It may be great. I don't know.
I think
I can tell you when I first saw it, visually like, oh,
Yeah,
what is
something's
this?
going on here.
And you
Right.
automatically are not sure, so you kind of,
Yeah.
yeah.
My kids think it's for mind control. That's what they tell me. I don't know what I'm trying.
Right in the center of that strip, that widest section there. Maybe one of those signs that tells you what your speed is.
Well, that's what that is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what that is. And that would be just on the downhill side. If you feel like they are gunning it to go up the hill, I mean, we can put it on both sides.
Yeah, it's usually either way.
And
Okay.
that's where that was where we were also wanting three-way stop signs. So like Fairlane, and I think it was the East Ridge we tried, it cuts that. I mean, I know this is going to be great, but that would even be more, you have to stop. That's those poor people that live right there at the end of their life. There's a car in their yard.
Because you're coming down a hill there, right?
Yes.
Into it.
Yes.
Yeah, I think as soon as people pass Fairlane, they see that opening right up the hill.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Okay.
Go down the hill, either way.
Yeah.
Sure, the guardrails
the guardrail, and then 3 others turn and come through our yard, just from that east.
Where
right at East Ridge.
On this side?
If you were to, if you were to drive through, we've had 5 cars, probably more actually, drive through because they just do that stop sign. It's ridiculous.
That's unbelievable.
Did you guys just do the concrete?
We did.
Okay, it looks good.
Thank you.
And we're 2 doors down from there.
Okay.
My brother owns the house next door, which is between them and where I am. We have a tree in our front yard got cut down by a car, big, flaming car in the front yard. Someone who doesn't make it around East Ridge right, and they slide on the ice and end up. Dennis's mailbox has been replaced 5 times. We just decided to leave ours laying in Stargate.
So a lot of that's coming from cars coming down East Ridge and then not stopping or not being able to turn or something.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, just will not be there.
Yeah. Metro could make a fortune if they would just sit on the cop. They used to out there every now and then.
I'm surprised there haven't been more car accidents because the people that fly over Keeley and then the people that don't stop at the stop sign, I'm honestly surprised. We've had 2 in front of our house since we've lived there that we know about, but I'm surprised it hasn't been as bad as how it's been at Fairlane recently.
Yeah.
That's gotten really bad.
Yeah.
There's been like 4 accidents.
And you gotta think of how many have been reported.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we'll look at that. I want to see, I know there are speed cushions on East Ridge. I'm not sure how close they are or aligned, but we'll see if there's anything else we can add to this. So this is not the plan. I mean, it's just the first draft of it.
It's just great to know you've got us on your list. Oh, my God. Somebody's going to get killed. Some child's going to get killed on Packard.
So I want to tell you where we're going to get where that is the final plan, and we can go on to the next step. So we're here at meeting 1. You've already applied. You've been selected. We're at meeting 1. What we will do from this point is take that feedback and kind of refine that design. We'll go ahead and do some field work and really measure that and figure out exactly where we're going to recommend those speed cushions to go. And then we're going to come back and show you that. And that's our meeting number 2. We're currently scheduling meetings out into the 1st of June, so it's going to be a little bit later in the summer probably. We'll be ready to come back and do that. At that meeting, if you say, looks good to us, let's do it, we'll go to the online ballot. We'll talk at that meeting too more about the online ballot. I'm happy to answer any questions about that, but there is a ballot process, so the 6 of us or so in the room can't decide this. We will put it out to all the whole neighborhood, and that will be done by mail and an online ballot.
But the new.
That's right. Yeah.
The new way is not. It's only the percentage. It's not the total houses. It's just the percentage that comes back to you. You need that.
That's right.
Okay. Good.
Yeah.
What's the percentage that you need?
Well, we need 2/3. We need 66%, but that's of the people who vote.
Who vote?
So there's not an absolute number that we're looking for.
Yeah. That was one of the reasons to go door to door.
Yeah.
So right now we just got an update on this from NDOT. We have balloted 90 projects over about the past year, and 90% of those have passed. So
if a person occupying a property along Packard, if the occupant is a tenant and not an owner, do they not get to vote?
no, ma'am, they don't. So the ballot material goes to the homeowner on record, and that may be in Michigan or wherever. Yeah.
Most of them doesn't know. If you think about it, I mean, less people to vote.
Yeah, right.
You're not gonna have as many no's. So.
Exactly.
And if
You guys do away with it altogether, most of you, almost all of them.
they're all passed, yeah. That's the way to look at it. Part of the rationale is we want to be sure people have had an opportunity to learn about it, know it's coming. You know, that's a okay way to do that, I guess. So anyway, but you're right. Yeah, they're overwhelmingly they are passing. A few haven't, and that's okay too. Once that closes, the other nice thing about it is it's a known 6 month. When we used to go door to door, these poor people were working for months and months and trying to get to that 70% number. Now we cut it off at 6 weeks. It's very known. We tally the votes at that point, and if it passes, we order the materials and go to construction at that time. Just to give
you let us know if it's failed or if you didn't get enough votes.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'm going to give you his email in just a second, but Gil Thomas is the NDOT employee that does all of that and really the program manager. He has all that information. So I'd encourage you to reach out to him, when we get to that point, and he can give you updates on all that. We don't typically reach back out because we don't know all of the neighbors and everything. If it does fail, I think he probably lets the council member know. He's very responsive.
So you would know if it failed or not. That would be something you could let us, District 30 know.
For the one, he included me and the original people who submitted the petition.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
Okay.
I got it. Just heads up. I got it.
Okay. That's the stressful part.
A little information on time frame. I don't want you to think this is going to happen, in the next couple of weeks. So, as I mentioned, we got a few weeks here to get to meeting 2. Then once the ballots go out, we got 6 weeks after that. If it passes, we got about 8 to 12 weeks to get the materials. We got about another 8 to 12 weeks to get it on the contractors thing, contractors. So we're down in the winter time, So just to kind of set those expectations, I don't want you to think that you're going to see any movement on this in the next few weeks. So sorry it takes so long. It's just kind of the process and the backlog we're working through.
Yeah.
Almost done here. Just some information there. That I'm Jeff in the green on the bottom. Gil, as I mentioned, is our program manager. Feel free to get in touch with either one of us or both of us if you have questions, think of other things, or have any other comments you want to share with us. And then you can go to TrafficCalming.Nashville.gov. I always just Google Metro Traffic Calming. I can't even remember. Or we got this QR code. A wealth of information on this program is at that website. You guys are already past a lot of it because, you've applied and done all that and had this meeting. But once we get into it, we will be posting this neighborhood's design plan, so you'll have access to that. You can go in as much detail as you want and see, what the plans show. This meeting tonight, the recording will be posted on there. So there's a lot. That tracker map that I showed you is on there, so a lot of information there about traffic calming. More than you ever wanted to know about traffic calming. What other questions or anything that do you have? Is there anything else I didn't cover?
About taking mailbox. I don't know about the mailbox.
Yeah.
I don't think you can put it in the mailbox. Can you touch the mailbox?
Yeah, they've always told us not to put anything on or around.
Okay.
Yeah, you can leave it at people's doors,
Your door.
on the chair by the door.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea. One thing that I hope we didn't lose the one thing about the door-to-door was nice was there was some discussion. There was some personal touch in that.
Yeah.
That's kind of nice. You don't see that much anymore.
Right.
You can still do that.
Yeah.
You can still go door-to-door if you want to. Just say, hey, there's going to be a card coming. It looks like this.
Sections, like y'all are up on one side, I'm down on the other. That's like in half,
Yeah.
right?
We're trying to fix it where nobody has to cross the street because that's where I almost got. I was
Yeah.
squirrel crossing the street, man. It was crazy.
But
it was
that would, because I know my immediate,
Right.
6 and 6, and
Yeah.
some over here.
Yeah,
That would help.
we walk nightly and we avoid our own street because of that. So,
You ever walk up in Fairleigh Park?
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, it's a good detail.
Come on,
Somebody
back.
see us or
Yeah. Yeah.
Will Crosby, somebody see us?
Yeah.
5003.
Wow.
Somebody say, hey.
Yeah.
That's, I'm stressing over the ballot.
We feel though.
Okay.
It's a pretty evening. I don't want to hold you in here.
Have you had any that did not get the vote?
Yeah.
Don't say that.
A few. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah.
I don't think
I'll
we'll
tell
have
you.
any issues though.
Couple hit me up, they watched it on, they were online.
Well, people in Packard too, can you hit them up?
No, I think that I think this is just something that's long overdue. The first application I sent in was in 2020. And of course, they went to the, recording, MAG. I went to school with MAG, man. Sometimes I love him, sometimes, it's like, man, you can get me.
Yeah.
But back then I went to school, he's an engineer, been an engineer all his career, but, he said, no, we can't do that, because there's not enough wrecks. I was like, well, we're trying to avoid wrecks. We don't want any wrecks.
So if somebody says they didn't get a ballot in the mail, they can go to the traffic calming link and find Packard
Yeah,
and vote there, or?
yeah, that would work. You need to talk to Gil, is what you'd do. So the question was, if you don't get a ballot in the mail, and you should have, there's two ways to do it. The ballot is not strictly online. There's a phone number on there too. So if you get one and someone doesn't have internet access or doesn't like it or whatever, they can call. They will talk directly to Gil, and they'll say, hey, I got my card and here's my code and I live at this, and he'll log the vote for them. If they don't get that, and about someone who didn't get a card, they can call that number. You should say, hey, call this number, tell them your situation, you'll talk to him.
And also, is there a way to be bilingual?
If they call, I don't know that we have anything on the website that is.
Okay. Because, some of our sweetest neighbors are, Hispanic.
We
want to make sure they understand what's happening.
We do have some materials that have been translated. We have one in Arabic or Farsi, and then we have one in Spanish. We can provide that if that's like as a handout, if that's helpful. I'm not sure if any of it has been posted or not. It probably should be, but we can pass that along. And I know we have translated some of our materials in the past.
He was nice when we were still having to go door to door to get the signatures. I had to do the work translate on my phone.
Oh, okay.
Someone was telling me about that a couple of days ago.
Okay.
So I could talk to the neighbor.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Pretty nifty.
It can be real fun, too. It can be real funny, too. We've done it, but
What do you want with a block of cheese? Yeah.
I feel bad because I'm a much more gracious hostess.
Invite them over, and it's like we just stand across the wall and wave at each other.
Yeah.
100%.
Well, I'm going to stop this recording, but thanks again for
all this.
for joining and for your participation.
Thank you.
Let her know what's going on.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet my neighbors.